This video is part of a playlist that's a podcast, so you can subscribe to the channel and watch videos one by one as they show up, and I will explain to you SQL, the language SQL, or SQL. It's also called SQL. And there is a before we begin about learning anything about SQL or SQL, how it's called, I want to tell you that it doesn't really matter how you call it, but people will have a bit of feelings. So if you are learning SQL to work in Europe or in the Middle East or I don't know, many other countries, SQL or even some other flavors of how it's called, you will hear this, and you might have to call it like this to fit in with the people who you're working with. But if you're working in America, if you live in America, then SQL is the default name how it's called. SQL versus SQL. I'm really tired. I'm really tired. It's it's a bit late at night, and I will make these videos members only at the beginning, and slowly they will be published to the public so anyone can watch them. But if you are a member, thanks for being a member, and you will get to watch this video even if you get the lowest level, and you might be able to watch 3 or 4 episodes, let's call them episodes, from this podcast. So if you want to watch the episodes of this podcast more in batches, you want to watch them earlier than anyone else, you join this channel, links below. I keep asking people to join the channel, but I try to give you as much help as I can. Everything is very detailed, but I really need your help. It would help me a lot if you join the channel and you pay the smallest amount. You don't need to get any of the bronze. You get the bronze like in the games. You get some custom emojis you can show off. You get custom emojis. You can show that you're a member when you comment. People will know you're a member. You have a bit of prestige on the channel, and also I believe I would see them comments earlier than the other ones, but I'm not sure how it works on the platform now. So yeah, let's go to the desktop. Okay, so why would you? Okay, let's go back to the camera. Okay, why would you learn SQL? Why would you want to learn SQL? First of all, SQL. What is SQL? First important thing. I'm assuming, okay, this podcast, these episodes, this series, everything is made with the assumption that you have no idea about this. I want to try to make it really from zero, like very basic. I want to make it so it's really from zero, from the beginning, basic level, the lowest possible level, so you can start from scratch, from zero. So first of all, if you found this podcast or episode or video, if you found this video, then you already have a bit of interest in learning SQL or SQL. So if you have the interest, that's a very good start from the beginning. And I have to warn you that in general, if you want to, camera is not straight. Okay, it doesn't matter straight or not. I have to, this is where the screen is. I'm looking at the screen, and this is where the bigger screen is, and this is where the camera is. So I might look around here. I have to warn you that if you want to work in IT in general, doing programming or administration of systems or database administration or SQL development, you have to have a bit of drive for it. Like, you have to like doing it because there are some really difficult parts and there's always something new that you have to learn. And if you don't want to learn new things all the time, it's going to be very difficult for you. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's always worth trying. And if you don't like it, you can do something else. But if you like it, it's a decent job. I mean, it's not like something wow amazing. I can work with databases. I work with databases. I can work with MSSQL, T-SQL, Oracle database, and even MariaDB. So yeah, don't want to go in too much detail because it's already getting long. This video, 11 minutes. I mean, I've been recording for 10 minutes and it feels like 1 hour already. To me, I wanted to do this series from some time ago actually, but it's because I do this all the time. When I make the videos, I like to make something totally different. It's like it's my hobby to fix some things and fix the car. I always like to fix the car, repair. I always like to repair things and figure how things work actually. And this is an important thing. If you like to figure out how things work, maybe could be something that you might enjoy, because there's always a problem, there's always something that goes wrong, and having the ability that you find the problem, the solutions, workarounds, this is really useful. It's really important to be able to do this. Don't be afraid. You might not have it now, or you think you don't have it, but you might have it. You might already have it and you don't know about it. You just have to try it. Okay, so what about SQL? SQL means, first I tell you now that I told you the bad things. You might get bored of it. It might seem too difficult. You might give up. If you want to give up at some point, it's not a big deal. You can do other things. There are a lot of things to do in IT in general and in other work. For example, you can make videos. I can make this video. This could be something interesting. I have to say I like to use the DaVinci Resolve more than the SQL Server Management Studio, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's begin with the important stuff. So after 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 13 minutes of recording this, finally I'm actually going into the details. I don't have any notes. I have no notes here, so this video might still be a bit boring, but this podcast, and I've seen the podcasts that tend to be like very long, really huge videos, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour. So if we make this video 1 hour about introduction, I think it's gonna be good. Maybe the actual recorded video footage will be more because some parts are not great, but still. So enough with the rambling. What is SQL? I mean, if you made it so far in this video, it means you're really interested to learn this, or you skipped through. And I have to warn you, do not skip through the video, because one small detail in this information, it's like a chain of things, like a movie story. If you skip the movie, you don't understand anything from it. So you really have to watch without skipping, and don't cheat, because I know when you skip it, I can see how you skip. This little arrow go right. It's not like I see you, but I can see that the statistics of the video, the episode, how if it's watched regularly, normally, one watch time, or skipped a lot. So don't skip the video. you will miss important information, and I will not be able to put all these details into the description. It's going to be too much to add there. Maybe it will be an article, but I'm not sure. It's easier to make the video. You watch the video. I take it from here. Put it here. I just want to put this knowledge into your brain there. I have been working with SQL Server 19 years. I think it's 19 years. And before with Excel and Access databases, and yeah. So there are a lot of things that you learn by doing things, and small tricks that will really save you at some point. And I want to tell you all those details, little small tricks that other people told me before. I was taught, be careful with this, watch out with that. Very important small details, so it's easier for you to do your job, to do your work, and have less traps. That's how I call them. I have a splinter in my finger. There's a splinter in my finger. I don't know how I got there. Looks like it's out. Swiss Army knife. I like to make videos about Swiss Army knives with this could have been one interesting to remove the splinter, but maybe not to show it. Okay, I will show you about how to avoid traps that could put your job in danger, because if you do a big mistake, you have to be able to recover from it, or else you do the people fly for making big mistakes. I mean, get fired. And it's not only about getting fired, it's about your reputation, about your self-esteem. You have to be able to have the self-esteem and respect yourself to be able to recover from mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. I'm not saying not to make mistakes, but you have to be able to recover from the mistakes. So mostly I might concentrate on actual database administration, because I do this a lot. So I can show you about backups, about how you restore data, how you do these things. But this is it's gonna come at a later stage. For now, I want you to learn the SQL language. So this you can use it with T-SQL for the Microsoft PL/SQL, or the Oracle Database SQL, and the traditional ANSI SQL, I think it's called SQL, simple SQL without store procedures and all this. This is for later. Okay. Hopefully I got myself a bit more comfortable after 20 minutes talking to the camera, almost 18 minutes. And let's begin now. If you're still watching by now, you really want to learn about this, and you heard about my advice not to skip, and let's begin. SQL or SQL stands for Structured Query Language, or why it was called SQL, or actually SQL, why it was called SQL before. It's because it was IBM, I think, made it. They were calling it Structured English Query Language, SEQL, SQL. But then they had to change the name. I don't know why they changed the name, but I don't really matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe they just changed their mind. Actually, SQL sounds pretty simple. 3 letters, easy to understand, easy to remember. Structured Query Language. Structured means you have the language is querying rows and columns of data just like an Excel. So you can have your Excel file with the rows and columns. So you can actually use Excel, Microsoft Excel, as a database. So you have row 1 here, Let's make it bigger. So you have column A, B, C, and then row 1, 2, 3. This is row 1, and then 4, 5, 6. And you can have column A these are 2 rows, column B 2 rows, column C 2 rows, like that. If you wanted to find out which of these cells have the number 5 in them, or where on column A the number is greater than 3, for example, or greater than the average, you would use SQL for that. And SQL, you would query this table, which can be converted into a SQL Server table very easily. Okay, now we're not gonna work with the Excel. We're not gonna work with Excel, but it's good to have it there because I actually use Excel quite a lot to build queries, to manipulate data, move data around. So it's not a bad thing to use Excel or Google Sheets. It's not really, it's important that you know, go to Google, search for MSSQL, and normally at work you will have standard edition of SQL Server or even enterprise edition of SQL Server. Those are not free, so we're going to use the Express. So you have also the option for Azure. This is on the cloud, but it's really, we don't deal with this. The way it works is really the same. The Express version has a bit of limitations here, and I don't know now between developer and Express. You could use developer for a non-production environment, but I don't know. The safest option, easiest, it's free, there is no strings attached. Supposedly also it can run on Linux, but this is on Windows 11. And you install the SQL Server Express. The address you install it from is from Microsoft.com, SQL Server downloads. Very straightforward. This is running from my downloads. So to recap here, I downloaded the file and I executed the installer file from Microsoft. Be careful where you get the files from. And now that the installation is started, I will choose custom because I want to choose the options to download. I want to install as many features as possible. You will want to install many features, so you can try them. This is all. You can always uninstall them. The location, I would leave it as default as it is. On the C drive, I have an NVMe drive, so this is gonna be pretty quick to install. Let's see. It should be, now it's downloading the files, and let's get into it. I might speed up some things, but actually I don't want to do things too quickly. I want this to be like really slow motion, and yeah. Okay, so it's extracting the setup files. This is SQL Server 2022, SQL Server 2022. Okay, now important part here. I don't know how to zoom in to see this. Then we can't make it bigger. Because on your computer you don't have any SQL Server or SQL Server, you would choose new standalone installation here. You can also install SQL Server reporting services, which might be really something nice to try, but this is for later. Let's not go into too many details. And also install the SQL Server Management tools, which is actually very important because SQL Server Management Studio is the tool that you'll use the most. And to be honest with you, I didn't really install analysis services, integration services. I did scripts, but not like that. And if you have an older version of SQL Server, you can upgrade, but let's choose new installation. This episode we call it Introduction to SQL Server or SQL Server and how to set up your SQL Server environment. There is a chance that I might already have SQL Server on this computer, so let's see. Okay. Have to accept the license to continue. Yeah, it's good to check for updates so you get the latest options. And now it will do a few checks to make sure that you are it's working, like everything is set up properly. Now, Azure extension for SQL Server, I will not use this because I don't really want to try the cloud in general. And I mean, when you want to try the cloud, you will know it. This is going to be also for later future references. This is just on your local laptop or computer, and no need to have the cloud and everything. You might have to pay for it, and you might even have to pay a lot because you use something too much. So you want to have all this ticked. This I never really use this option, so I'm not gonna enable it. And local DB also I don't really care much about it. It will install by default in the program files Microsoft SQL Server. Seems okay to me. Press next. It's usually next. Okay, named instance, you can have it like this, or the default instance. I would suggest to use the default instance just to get an idea of how it usually is, but you can also have named instance. It's just the way you connect to the server. You might have to put a slash and something else. And also if you want to have multiple instances on the server, on the computer, that's when name instance is useful. But default instance, I don't want to go into too many details, but you wouldn't really use this too much, especially not now. And for a test setup, default instance, the instance name is MSSQL server. That's the instance name. Press next. Hopefully by the end of this video we will do a query. I want to be able to do at least one select. Okay, so the database engine is running under a default type of account, MSSQL server. So let's grant privileges. The collation is the way the localized characters are displayed. And I can't really go into too many details about this, but in general the default is fine as it is. So database engine. Okay, I think now it's gonna be ready to install. Yeah, okay, so we have by default is Windows authentication mode, but I want you to have mixed mode because you have to know how to connect to the database with Windows credentials where you don't enter any password, or with the password. In some situations you will need a password, and it's good to know how to do that. So let's put apart password, EON, how to like the channel name. This is if in your password, then you don't share it with anyone, but this is just for the test, so it doesn't really matter. Directories, no need to change anything. The tempdb settings, this is a temporary database, no need to change anything. Default, it's depends how much memory you have on your computer. Really, you leave the options as they are, you don't need to change anything there. All you have to do is change to mixed mode, which is Windows authentication and Windows integrated authentication and SQL Server authentication. So it should install it pretty quickly now because we have that NVMe. Okay, this part we could skip it forward to the end of this process, but I'm gonna be sitting here waiting for it to finish. Okay, in the meantime, I don't know, you could write in the comments if you think SQL Server is, if you heard about this, or MySQL, or MariaDB. MySQL and Oracle, they are Oracle database and MySQL, they are owned by the Oracle Corporation, and it's like, I don't know, I'm a bit, yeah. So we have SQL or SQL, and then there is no SQL or no SQL, and there are databases which use SQL, and those databases are called relational database management systems, or DBMS, RDBMS. And then there are the non-relational database management systems, which are the NoSQL databases like Cassandra, MongoDB, document databases, graph databases. Basically, you could have a database where it's one JSON file. A JSON file is a text file structured with could have any custom structure, and you can have extract information from it like a database. So you get the file by ID, and there is no relation with other files. You could have, well, anyway, we're getting close to having it installed now. This is why I was thinking to do these videos, but it's really, I don't know, you tell me in the comments below. Tell me in the comments below if you think this is actually useful or if it's a waste of time. I think it's useful that someone who really wants to learn SQL, that would be very, how to say, for me, it would be very an honor. It would be an honor to be able to make someone learn SQL and say like, "Whoa, like I made someone get a job and be able to do some interesting things." That's really interesting. There are a lot of jobs: data science, data engineering, now machine learning. I think there are still also, you might have use for SQL when you have to prepare the data, arrange the data to be used to train artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms. So I think structuring data in specific ways is going to be always useful. You're always going to need to show a report of something or arrange things in a specific way to input somewhere else. So in the meantime, the installation was successful. So we finished this one, but we're not really finished. There's one. You can go to Google to find it. You say SSMS, like SQL Server Management Studio, download. And it takes you to the first result will be this page from Microsoft. Make sure you are on the Microsoft website so you don't get scammed or anything. Download, what is it? Download SSMS. this one, that click. It's 470 megabytes, so it's gonna open it soon now. I click here on Chrome and it's going to open when it's ready. It's downloading pretty quickly. Okay, so this one will finish there. Okay, and now this is the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. The version, you just get the latest version, doesn't really matter, even if you use you have an older installation of SQL Server, the SQL Server, the newer Management Studio will work. Management Studio is the client. I press install, it's really basic, nothing, it's just click to install. And it's very good at setting things up for you, so things will really just work and there's not much trouble to get it working. As long as you remember the password you set. If you don't remember the password, you can use Windows authentication. I will show you both options now once we get it set up, once we get it installed. So you see why it's easier to use Windows authentication, but it's always good to have the option to connect from a client that is not supporting Windows authentication. It's installing Microsoft Visual Studio tools, or because it's actually an extension of Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a program made for development, programming, but the Management Studio is an extension of it, so it doesn't really matter much. You can learn details about it. I don't know everything that it can do, but there are a few things that I use a lot in SSMS. To find the SQL Server Management Studio, you type in the start menu SSMS and pin it to taskbar, because you will need it a lot. So now this program here, this is the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, and it's connecting, it's opening. Okay, so first and most important, when you connect, you have to put the server name, or this is going to be an IP, or it's going to be localhost if it's on the local computer. For you, because you're doing a test, it's going to be either localhost, which is your local computer, or you leave the default name as it is, because this is going to be your local computer already there. And if I leave here Windows authentication, it's going to just work as it is, because my Windows user, the user I connect to on the computer, it's already added as administrator on the server, on SQL Server. So this is the desktop PC, Windows authentication. I'm gonna copy the name just in case if something happens. And let's connect. Okay, this is something new actually. I don't use this new version, so I trust the certificate. Just some extra steps there. Okay, so you have here, this is the connection, and I want to disconnect, and file on top, connect Object Explorer. Object Explorer is going to show you the tree here on the left, and I want to show you SQL Server authentication, and the login will be SA as in System Administrator. The password will be learn how to. I can check to remember the password. Maybe no. I always now have to tick this trust certificate. So now we're connected with SA. Even on a local computer like this, it's not good to leave the SA, this system administrator user, as it is. So this is the sysadmin user on the properties of the login. So we're going to make a new login, give it the name Ion how to SQL Server Authentication. I will copy the name and password. You would normally have these checkboxes enabled, but because it's a test, I will leave it like this. And the user is created, and I can give it server roles sysadmin. And now this user can do everything the SA can do. And we're gonna try this connect. Same password. And first thing I will do now, I will disable the SA. So now this red X there, it means the SA is disabled. So you have the Ion how to and the Windows authentication option, and that's pretty much all there is there. So now we are connected. And actually, for the test, I really just wanted to show you that you can connect with Windows credentials or with the SQL Server credentials, but it's the easiest thing to use the Windows credentials because it's just there. Okay, so now I want to create a database, and first I wanted to create a new query there. And to create database, you can run the command create database, or actually from Management Studio here, you can right click and type new database. Call this one 01, and it will create the files. Each database has a data file and a log file. There is a data file which is going to be an MDF file, and then the log file is the LDF file. So tutorial db01.mdf. I like to give it a different name completely. I don't know if it's just superstition, but that's how it is. Recovery model, we keep it simple. Keep it simple like this. And we created the tutorial db1. I could use the create database tutorial db command. Go is optional, we don't really need it. And semicolon ends the line. Also, it's not very needed. Here, you're connected to the master database because other than tutorial db01, there is no other database. So I select the text here that I want to run and press execute or F5 on the keyboard. I will make it so you can see what I'm doing actually. So I press F5. And now if we go here and refresh, we should have two databases. And the file will be tutorial.db mdf, tutorial.db_log ldf for the default option here. So we created a database here. And this one, we can delete it, but because this is a tutorial of SQL, we do a drop database tutorial db1 F5, and we're still connected to it. Okay. Could kill this process. and now it's done. Okay, don't worry about this, I'll show you more details about it. This word, you have to use it as little as possible, and this is how you comment out a line. You put two minuses in front of it, but in general, if you have this word, you can even put a minus in between just to make sure that the command is not easy to run by mistake. You want to avoid dropping things. You want to avoid dropping things by mistake. This is really important. Okay, it's still working, this thing. Is it? Okay, so it's like I'm a bit rambling here, trying to show you everything, but okay, so to use this database, either we change it from here, from this drop down, or we use this directive here, it's use database. To know on which computer you are connected, this is what you will see here in this corner. I don't know if you can see this. I'll make it so you can see this corner. So here you see the computer where you're connected. It's always important to make sure you are connected to the right computer. And this is the database here. We're on this database now. You can also see the database on top here. And if you have different use directives here, use statements, it will switch between one database to another as the script progresses. So you might want to do that also. Okay. Okay, now to create a table, I'm just going to create a sample, few sample tables. We have the statement create table, and then you give the name of the table and you start with the parentheses. You open the bracket and you close it, and in between here you have the actual table fields. So department ID is going to be a primary key, which primary key is like a way to organize the data in there and also make it unique by specifying identity. Identity 1, means it starts from 1 and it's incrementing 1 at a time. So ID 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. And because it's primary key, you will not be able to have the number 1 2 times. So it's guaranteeing data integrity for references for foreign keys, trying to keep it simple. Okay, we'll leave that for later. Department name nvarchar 100. This is just a data type. Nvarchar means it could be varchar or nvarchar. Varchar will allow some custom characters. Nvarchar will allow more various characters. Not null means it will not allow the values to be null. So we select this area here, press F5, and in tutorial DB now we have one table, departments. Okay, so to add data into this table, you can actually do a select like this from it, but it's empty now. There are a lot of things you can do by asking the program to do things for you. So you don't have to type manually all these things. It's better not to have to type too much. But the idea is to type less. So here I have these statements. I have a few statements prepared in advance, so you don't spend time now typing. And the blue things here are things that are mandatory. They have to be called like this. because they are the statements, insert statement. But then this name of the table has to be the same name as the one that was there. So for example, if I put another character there, it will not work because the table doesn't exist and the column here doesn't exist. So the insert statement will insert values into our table here. We have insert into table name. Let's try to run it. See, invalid object department 3. But if I leave the table name correctly, it will still not work because department 3 column doesn't exist. So it has to be correct, matching with the data we have in our database. The values then come like this. So you will have a few inserts there. There are multiple ways to do the insert. This is one way to do it. It depends on how. This is like a quick and easy way to insert 4 rows. So now if I do the right click on the table and select top 1000 now, I change it to 1000. Now I see I can zoom in here. Now this, I have data in the table and I could even edit the data directly, but the ID cannot be changed because it's a primary key, and actually because it's at the identity column will not allow me to change it. Primary key and identity, it's for your safety, for your data safety. Okay, we add one more table employees. We have details of the employee, different types of data. This is in integer, it's a number, and then text. And this one is a date. So it's a type of data that is date time. Date actually. Department ID. Okay, let's see. One important thing is to close this thing here. So one interesting part now, you have a foreign key, which is the department ID, integer department ID from this table. It's referencing the departments table by the department ID column, which was the first one we created, department ID there. So the employee will have a link to the department, which makes sense, right? Okay. Let's insert a few employees. So we inserted 4 rows into the employees table. On each field, the order matters here. The same order you have here, you must have in the values here. And the ID of the department ID is 1, 2, 3, 4. If we do a select now from the employees table, we have department ID 1, 2, 3, 4. But I want to show you something. If I try to change the department ID to 7, guess what? It will not let me because the number 7 doesn't exist there, or 0. So it will only allow me to use, I press escape to get it back to how it was. It will only allow me to use values that exist in this table. So if I wanted the department 5, for example, let's try here, edit, make this one 5. Okay, 5 doesn't work, but I can add the 5. So now I have department 5, and I can add it now. This is very important to understand about relational databases have these relations which keep the data these relations keep the data integrity going well. These relationships are what keeps your data in a good shape, not corrupted. So, okay. Here I created the salaries table and inserted a few salaries, and we have there. Now, if I want to do I remove all this stuff, and the most basic thing you can do, you can say select, and you can put stars for all the columns. It's like a wildcard from which table you want to get, and then I will choose employees. Let me spell it employee. I could put the schema. There is the schema before also. No. Let's try it. I don't know. Maybe it needs to refresh some cached values. Sometimes it needs some time to refresh. It doesn't matter. But you type select star from employees, F5, and you get the results. If you want more specific, if you want only employee number 3, ID 3, you can use the where clause and say employee ID equals, and you can write it like this, just a number, or you can write it between single quotes like that. And now you have only one employee ID. And I want to show you one quick trick here before we finish this episode, because I think it's getting late and I really need to sleep. If I select only this part and I press F5, it will run the statement without the where clause. It's very important to understand this. If you select without the where clause, you will do this even if it's a delete or an update. So if I select with the where clause, it will run only one. Without the where clause, it's running for all of them. So if this was a delete, now it will delete 4 rows without the where clause. Now it will delete 1 row with the where clause. This is super important. Whatever you have selected and you press F5 or you press execute here, that's what it's gonna do. So be very careful with this. The last thing you want is to run a delete or an update without the where clause. And then you do for all the rows in database, like you will do one of those memes, 8 million rows affected. Yeah. So, don't know. Okay, we did a select, and I think for today we'll leave it at this, and let's continue in another episode. It's been already 1 hour recording. Maybe I can condense this episode into 40 minutes, so it's not too boring for you. But what we did in this episode, we downloaded and installed SQL Server, SQL Server, we installed Management Studio, and we created a database, created a few tables, even created foreign keys, did a select. Most important part was I show you that you will have different results depending on what you select on the query, so watch out for that. This is it's something that people get tricked very easily, and then and then you need a backup. everything you do, like these tests, do them on your own local computer, where if you delete everything, it's not a problem. Don't try these tests on a production environment, on a live environment. Production or live means that something that's actually used by people and it's important to have it running. You can do this on a test environment. You can set up your own test environment. And what we did now, actually, this is a test environment because I can delete this database and nobody cares. I can uninstall the whole SQL server and it doesn't matter. I don't use it for anything else. And here you can create things and delete them. Also, I would like to tell you that you should have scripts for everything. When I had the option to create the database from the menu. It's easy to do things from the menu, but if you need to repeat those things, then it's difficult because you don't have a script. If you have a script, you can run the whole script and it's like in seconds it's done. So it is more difficult to do things at the beginning, but then when you have repeatability, it's much better when you can set up a whole environment with one script, you just run it and it's done, instead of you having to click and do all these things. It's not bad to use the menus and click, but it's good to know both ways, so you choose later which one is better for you. So what I'm telling you here is the MSSQL to learn T-SQL, and this is only the introduction. There's going to be stored procedures, functions, window functions, common table expressions, the aggregation. It's going to be a lot of things to show you. It's gonna, I don't know. You tell me if you watch this video, if you think it's boring or if you think it's useful. If there is something specific you want to know about, please write a comment because that would help anyone who is interested in this. Or if you think the video is boring, maybe it's taking a long time to do this, so I hope it's not for nothing. This is all I can say because it would be a shame to do all this for nothing. That's it for this episode. See you in the next episode. Should be in the playlist. If you are from the future and there is another episode of this, it should be somewhere in the podcast as a next episode. If I didn't make any other episodes, hope you understand, and I hope I do more because there are a lot of things I would like to share, and I hope there are some people who are interested in this to learn this, other than using the AI now. If you use ChatGPT to create things, it's good, but you should also be able to understand, to do things, to customize things how you want them to make them work for your environment. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one, hopefully. Comment below if you found this interesting or if you found it boring. Please say it how it is, and maybe it's more fun to fix things than through the computer. It's a bit tiring to do all these things. Hope this sound is working well, and see you in the next one. Where's the button?